Welcome to MedAxiom Heart Talk, the podcast where cardiovascular thought leaders come together for one ultimate goal: to continually advance cardiovascular health care for all. MedAxiom Heart Talk starts now. This is Ginger Biesbrock, and today I'm going to talk about leveraging the value of your registry data. So I want to start with a question. Is your registry data working for you, or is it working against you? As an industry, we have access to multiple registries, such as the American College of Cardiology, NCDR, the Society for Thoracic Surgery, STS database, and the American Heart Association Get With The Guidelines databases. Each has a data set we are all very familiar with, but as an industry, we leverage only a fraction of it to improve clinical process and outcomes, boost program performance, or demonstrate value. It's been said that organizations spend millions of dollars manually abstracting and validating data from electronic health records and other systems, sometimes op reports, procedure reports, and other areas where we collect data. Many organizations employ a team of nurses, data abstractors, and others to enter, report, and manage their registry data. Yet, despite all the resources invested, we see most programs missing opportunities to optimize on the use of their data, or what I would say, really take that data and make it actionable. So here's some ways to get some additional value from those investments. Number one, designate ownership. Having an accountable staff person oversee accurate collection, effective reporting, and the use of data for improving process and outcomes is a well-found practice. An integral role we see in programs that manage their data well is what we call a clinical quality specialist or a quality improvement specialist. Truly, this role can be invaluable. What we see here is that this role will provide a quality assurance layer. For example, they oversee the work of the abstractors and others who contribute the data to guard against garbage in, garbage out, which is really a primary reason registry report data is so often questioned by physicians and other end users. It is that specialist's job to scrub and validate that the team is capturing the right information. They synthesize complex data into useful summaries. If you've seen any of the reports, the last STS report I looked at was over 200 pages long. Again, there's a lot of background information in there, but you hand a physician that report and you're not going to get a lot of insights back as related to the results that are embedded somewhere, around page 175. An effective quality specialist can distill those registry reports and synthesize them into something easy to read and make decisions from. They know or should know how to tease out the most relevant data points for the physicians and the hospitals and your programs into one-page summaries for those end users. To really make these actionable, you need to be able to look at that data at a glance and understand where you're at and where you want to go. Now, you have to put some work in behind that to define which metrics are you going to be looking at, which ones offer the most opportunity, and which ones align with your overall strategic and clinical plan. In addition, they monitor and evaluate data trends. So that specialist should be watching for fallout and anomalies. They should be taking a deeper dive into the problem areas. For example, if there's been an increase in your vascular complication rate for your PCI patients, the specialist can analyze details to figure out what has changed to cause the shift, what has changed in the process, or are there new owners of that process. Perhaps we'll trace it back to a post-procedure site access management change. And identify any issues. So again, they can do a root cause analysis on either trends or on outliers. So their ability to look for those outliers, pull records, do a chart review, organize the information so you can understand exactly what happened in those areas. And is that going to be a concern, or was that just a focal issue? Again, does it require a person to do that work? It doesn't, but it does require somebody to own it. So does it need to be a single role, or is it something that can be kind of chopped up into different roles and responsibilities for other folks on your team? Every organization is going to look a little bit different, but I can tell you for those organizations that really manage their data well, this role is invaluable. So number 2, what else can we do to be helping to improve the value of our registry data? Choose your focus and your goals. Again, most registry reports are data intensive and cumbersome. They have lag times. They contain 50 to 60 or even more measurables that are hard to decipher. That can be really overwhelming for anybody, let alone people that are busy, clinicians, providers, physicians who have little time to digest the data. The role of data management is to synthesize and distill registry data into something usable and actionable. Don't put raw data reports, as I just said, but choose 4 or 5 that align with your strategies and goals and report on those, following trends, looking for actionable opportunities and things that you can do to improve those outcomes. Tie the registry metrics to physician performance and compensation, and even the performance and compensation for other folks on your team. If you've got team members that contribute to that particular metric, don't be afraid to align with their performance management. What this does is it aligns incentives in a way that benefits patients, physicians, and organizations. It gets us on the same page and helps us to all kind of row in the same direction. The strategy works because physicians are given access to manage their data directly and incentives that hold them accountable for the outcomes. It's important to note that a clinical quality specialist can be very helpful, but it could also be the director of the program or the overall manager of the program. 4th, use the data in clinical governance. So we have seen physician leadership engage with registry data above and beyond the performance of their specific program. For instance, the service line structure has been developed. Leadership committees are responsible for the financial quality and operational performance of all of the programs. The subcommittee model can own each of the registries for review and accountability. The information is then shared with the executive committee as part of a dashboard or scorecard for that particular program, whether that's EP, interventional, or you could even break it down into structural heart at that sort of level. When the registry data is owned and provided in an actionable environment, it's an effective information set for the committees to use as a starting place for accountability standards. And finally, demonstrating value with private payers. Another area that may be picking up interest is use of high-performing quality data to leverage better payer contracts and relationships, especially within the value-based environments. If your registry data demonstrates favorable outcomes and complication rates, your program or clinically integrated network may be in a better position for contract negotiation. Are payers open to considering registry data as a way to impact the cost of care? I do believe that that is the case or will be the case. Payers don't historically have direct access to that level of data. They see your claims data and they can make some assumptions based on the claims path that they see the patient follow, but it's not nearly as articulate or granular as your clinical quality registries. So it is a good opportunity to show your value and request preferential treatment and better reimbursement if your outcomes warrant that. And as a value-based care gains traction, the use of registry data to illustrate that value will become even more important. Registry participation is voluntary with a few exceptions, but at some point it may be required in other areas. It's up to us as an industry to make sure that data is accurate, understood by physicians and end users, and used in a positive way. Adding a clinical quality specialist to your team and the use of the ideas that I've outlined really could leverage your data for process performance and potentially even reimbursement improvement. A great example or opportunity of how to get your data to work for you instead of you putting so much time and energy into data that's really not very useful. Thank you.
You've been listening to MedAxiom Heart Talk, the podcast where cardiovascular thought leaders come together to advance healthcare. You can follow MedAxiom on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another MedAxiom Heart Talk, and thanks for listening.